We've all come to recognize Donk as one of the best CS players in the world.
Look at Donk do it! That's disgusting! Revolting from Donk!
But how did he blow up and build such a huge reputation in just a year? I mean, at the start of 2024, barely anyone knew about him. Then, out of nowhere, this 17-year-old kid from Siberia ends up on one of the most legendary esports stages in Katowice, easily destroying all of his opponents and taking the MVP medal. And what's more interesting is that even the top teams were left confused, saying, "Wait, what just happened? Who is that guy?" In the community, there was even a group of haters who believed that Donk exploited the broken mechanics of CS2 and that was the only reason he could make it out of Tier 3. But hey, regardless of what anyone said, Danya came out of nowhere and became the biggest sensation in esports. Like it or not, everyone just had to deal with it. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe, because you're watching Cybershoke, and today we're diving into why the best teams couldn't and still can't take down Donk. And we'll try to uncover his secret. Let's get into it. So today's video will be split into two segments. First, we're going to dive into what made Donk's arrival on the scene so unique. How did he climb to Tier 1 in a way that left every single team completely unprepared for his playstyle? Then we'll shift gears and break down the gameplay. What exactly gave Donk the edge to straight up humble the best CS players in the world? Well, let's get into it. Donk joined Spirit's main lineup on July 5th, 2023. Just to put that date into perspective, that was back when Na'Vi had just signed their international lineup and Heroic was still the top team on HLTV. Yep, back before they fell apart. As for Daniil, back then his talent was mainly being noticed by the pros, coaches, scouts, you name it. Rumor has it Vitality was already eyeing him as a potential pick. Honestly, his move to Spirit's main lineup was actually totally well-deserved. Stats aside, what really made Donk stand out was his sheer passion for the game. Even for such a young player, his dedication was next level. The guy grinded FACEIT so much that as of this video, he's racked up over 5,700 matches on the platform. To put that in perspective, even Simple, who's a decade older, doesn't have as many. But the first time Donk really started turning heads in the Counter-Strike world was at his rookie LAN tournament in Serbia. Sure, the competition wasn't the toughest, but Danya carried his team to victory and dominated the event with an insane 1.37 rating.
На Искре очень сложная ситуация для Фейма. Донк его моментально разменивает. В меньшинстве остаются уже в подавляющем. Команда Virtus.pro и Норберт остается один, хотел бы я сказать, но Браво, Spirit занимают первое место на нашем турнире.
News outlets were all over it, posting headlines like, "What is this kid doing?" Meanwhile, the team's coach, Hallie, couldn't have been more impressed with Donk's form. Danya is showing incredible CS. He needs to keep a cool head, maintain the right approach, and continue working on his game, but he has a bright future ahead. I'm not sure if he'll make it into the top 20 this year, since there aren't any big tournaments coming up, but he has everything it takes to become the best. But Donk really became a major topic of discussion after the next tournament, Bet Boom Dacha. With a $300,000 prize pool and a much tougher competition, it was a huge event. Spirit took home the championship once again, and Donk earned MVP. To top it off, his team made a remarkable comeback in the final, pulling off a 0-2 reverse sweep in a best-of-5.
The spam through the smoke, it's insult to injury. It is the first reverse sweep in a best-of-5 grand finals that we have the pleasure of having our eyes on, and it comes in the early days of CS2, Team Spirit.
Compliments came flooding in for Danya, and he quickly became the center of attention. Even m0NESY praised his performance, saying it was impressive and that this was just the beginning. Another big name, Jame, took it a step further, analyzing Donk's demos and stating that his gameplay was already close to Tier 1 level, especially in terms of his decision-making. At the same time, people started to raise concerns about Spirit's reliance on Donk. Danish analyst Bubsky weighed in, saying, "It's hard to believe that this unique rifler will stay with Spirit until the end of 2024. The team's reliance on him is a bit concerning." Despite all the buzz after Bet Boom Dacha, the CS world still didn't give Donk the attention he truly deserved. Sure, people were talking about him, but no one really grasped just how good he actually was. February 11th, 2024. Team Spirit made it to the final of IEM Katowice, which on its own was a big surprise for the community. They weren't even ranked in the top 10 teams, yet during their run, they pulled off some massive upsets, taking down FaZe and Na'Vi. IEM Katowice turned out to be one of the standout events of the year in CS. The community was buzzing about the new star Donk. With every Team Spirit victory, the haters kept predicting that Donk was about to choke or have a terrible map, but that never happened. One of the best teams in the world, reigning world champions in fact, led by the legendary Kerrigan, couldn't even win a single map against Spirit in the best-of-5 final. And Donk, he finished that match with an insane 1.96 rating. Needless to say, he walked away with the MVP medal. Just take a moment to think about how insane those numbers are. Katowice is a historic city for esports, and winning that trophy is almost as coveted as taking home a major. No one expected that a 17-year-old kid could show up at his first big tournament and walk away with a victory, especially not against the absolute elite of the game. Not many of you might remember this now, but back then, a lot of people thought Donk was exploiting the technical flaws in CS2, particularly the so-called peeker's advantage. This was a big talking point during Katowice because in true Valve fashion, they dropped a major update right in the middle of the tournament. A lot of people thought it was their way of countering Donk's insane stats, but that theory didn't last for long because Donk's numbers actually didn't change at all after the update dropped. m0NESY said, quote, "You have to be delusional to say that Danya is overrated. He's an exceptional player. That said, he still lacks experience in certain situations, but he's absolutely dominating, and people aren't ready for it. They weren't prepared for his playstyle. He takes down everything that moves." Katowice was the tournament that made everyone in esports sit up and take notice. After that, it was clear that this kid couldn't be ignored anymore. Even the developers joked about trying to stop him. By that point, Donk wasn't just some young guy from an academy team winning Tier 2 tournaments. He was a legit champion. Now, every team was scrambling to figure out how to outplay Danya and truly understand his style. And eventually, they succeeded in cracking the code. After Katowice, Donk never hit a rating that high again. But even now, he remains one of the top players, with an average rating of around 1.3 at major events, which is still incredible. But like we said, the numbers he had at Katowice are still unmatched. So, what's the secret that many teams uncovered after that tournament in Poland? Well, let's dive in and find out. Let's start with the obvious fact that can't be overlooked. Donk has some serious raw skill. It's important to remember that we're talking about a guy who, at just 17 years old, had already surpassed Simple in the number of matches played on FACEIT. If you gave Donk's game knowledge to an average decent player, they probably wouldn't see the same kind of results. And that's backed up by the fact that even after everyone spent countless hours watching his demos, studying his playstyle, and adapting to it, Donk still went on to win the Shanghai Major at the end of 2024. He also snagged the MVP with a 1.49 rating, marking the best major run in CS history and making him the youngest world champion ever. But the point we're getting at is that a lot of people tried to analyze Danya's playstyle and figure out what made him so dominant. The community had plenty of different theories, but the one that stuck out the most came from MauiSnake. Here's what he had to say. "I disagree with those who claim that Donk's success comes down to self-confidence and good aim. Let's be real. You can't dominate the Tier 1 scene just by believing in yourself and shooting well. Donk's real secret lies in a new mechanical tactic he developed, which gives him an edge in every duel. He's now showcasing it in official matches. I call it the Donk Slide." So what's this mysterious Donk Slide all about? Let's break it down. As MauiSnake explained, it's a mechanical tactic where Danya first wide swings, then crouches and counter-strafes. For example, Maui pointed out Donk's duel with JL. JL had the chance to react to Donk's peek, but he couldn't keep his crosshair on him because Donk crouched and immediately started moving back. MauiSnake was only off in one way. Danya didn't invent this tactic. It had been used by pros in CSGO before, like Boltz, coldzera, GeT_RiGhT, Shox, and Taric. But Donk was the first to bring it into the new version of the game. It's important to understand that the mechanics of CS2 really play into this style, where you're constantly on the move and peeking. Even Blade pointed out that you can counter Donk if you make better decisions than him. While Andre praised Danya's mechanical skill, he also described his playstyle as aggressive, with decisions that can sometimes be impulsive. Donk himself connects this playstyle to the early days of his career. "I was forced to play from Tomsk with 100 ping. When you play with such a high ping, you can't afford to stand still. You have to always be moving. That's kind of the basis of CS2 gameplay. It's incredibly hard when you're not confident in your actions. Even if you do everything right, you will face difficulties due to lack of confidence, which is crucial in this sport. Therefore, there is nothing left than to believe in yourself and your actions, even if they may be wrong. Looking back now, we can confidently say that Donk's domination at the start of the year was a bright flash driven by a mix of factors. First off, he's an incredibly skilled player whose talent was seriously underestimated. Secondly, no one was ready for his playstyle. And thirdly, because he played with a high ping early in his career, he became more accustomed to those conditions than most other players. But what's your opinion? Do you think Danya deserves the #1 spot for 2024? Let's talk about it in the comments. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on the best esports content. See you in the next one, guys.